So moving on to linear regression, we're trying to look at the relationship between two quantitative variables again. And just like before, we're going to look at our scatter plot that looks at the relationship of those two variables. We're going to overlay it with a line of best fit. We're going to calculate a correlation coefficient, and then we're going to interpret it. So as before, the requirements are that we have quantitative data, both the X and Y value. We want to make sure that the relationship is a linear relationship. And also be aware of if there are outliers, they can drastically affect our regression model. Just like we saw at the example with the earthquakes, we're actually, taking one outlier out drastically change the direction and the strength of our linear relationship. It only makes sense if our observations are independent from one another. So if we had dependency, we should not be looking at linear regression over here. As before, the first step to our regression analysis is to create a scatter plot, calculating the correlation coefficient, and values that are close to 1 or -1 indicate a stronger linear relationship and therefore a better regression model. After we do those first steps, we will fit a line to our data. This is called the least squares regression line. So it's called least square regression line because it reduces the squares of the differences from each value to the line. So the properties of our least square regression line are the following. First of all, we're going to give our regression equation in slope-intercept form. And in algebra, that's usually mx plus b. Over here, we are actually going to give it as a plus bx, so in reversed order. This line minimizes the sum of the squared residuals. Remember, the straight line describes how a response variable changes as the explanatory variable changes, and it also tells us about the strength of that relationship. With that, we're going to make predictions, and we're going to interpret the strength, the direction, and so on. So the next two videos are going to go over that. So again, looking at predictions, and we want to interpret the slope and look at what that tells us about the general relationship of X and Y.